Twin Cities, up and at 'em. I'm Jack Tomzak. That's Ben Cruzy.
You need to relax.
You do need to relax. It's unhealthy. Joining us now in studio is Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate, the seat currently occupied by Al Franken. Good morning, Mike McFadden.
Well, good morning, Jack.
And
Ben. Well, Ben's over in the corner doing yoga. I've never seen that before.
Look, I've got my earbuds in. I'm listening to some Enya. I'm sipping on some chamomile tea.
Little chai.
Yeah, trying to cool out because I'm going to be honest. I was just in Washington. That city will make you mad. Fly back here. What's happening in St. Paul's making me mad, and I'm kind of losing hope.
You need one of those stress ball things to squeeze or something.
I need a pep talk. I need to be reminded that being involved is all worthwhile.
You can just borrow yours, Jack.
Have you noticed that the only place that building is taking place is in government?
Mm-hmm.
So whether
especially in Washington.
Well, you know, you were talking about in St. Paul the $90 million Senate building. How out of touch is that? But you go to Washington, there's more cranes.
There's cranes everywhere.
More than Shanghai.
Yeah.
You know, they never saw a recession.
Right.
There in Washington, they're so out of touch.
That's why they don't get it, because they don't get out of the city enough to see what the rest of us are dealing with or living like.
They really don't. And 3 out of the 5 wealthiest zip codes in the country now are in D.C.
Really?
It's wrong. I mean, the other 2 are where you would expect, Palo Alto and Silicon Valley, and then up in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Yeah, sure.
And then they're around D.C. It's wrong. You know, I get the same feeling walking down D.C. that I do in Las Vegas. No, I'm serious. You know, so you walk down the strip in Las Vegas, and you look at this all these huge buildings, and I'm like, what a sucker I am. You know, this is coming right out of my pocket.
That's right.
I was trying to explain it yesterday. You walk around Washington, D.C., and all the buildings are pristine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And yeah, it's exactly like walking around in Vegas.
And they're all government buildings or trade associations.
Right.
So you're like, oh, what a sucker I am. This is right out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You walk downtown Minneapolis, well, I can't say St. Paul, but downtown Minneapolis, I don't ever question how those buildings were built.
Mm-hmm.
Commerce built them. Industry built them.
Right.
But in D.C., I mean, it is a really uncomfortable feeling. And that's why.
Just like Vegas, a lot of gambling, and it feels a little phony.
It's amazing what you can build with other people's money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't know if the 2 of you saw our press conference yesterday, but
I didn't.
We announced that we were going to pick up the mantle of one of my heroes, Senator Tom Coburn.
Oh, yes.
In Washington, who has spent his whole career there weeding out waste, I should say. And what I love about Tom Coburn, and I'm so honored to have his support, is, first of all, he's not a career politician. He was a doctor. He was an OB-GYN. Mm-hmm. He got so upset about what was happening in Washington that he decided to run. And when he got to Washington and he looked at all the waste that was spending, and he was upset not only with the Democratic Party, but, you know, as a Republican, he was upset at his own party. So he decided to publish something yearly called the Waste Book. Okay. And last year, he estimated that there were $200 billion of waste full spending in D.C.
So that number again?
$200 billion of waste. You know, and so then he always highlights certain things like federal dollars being spent to research volumizing shampoo for dogs.
Why?
It's crazy.
Who cares?
Right.
The dogs, Jack.
I know, but
the dogs with
don't pay
thinning
taxes.
hair and split ends.
But you know, I mentioned that in the context of D.C. and what we were talking about, how out of touch they are. He's not afraid to take on Republicans or Democrats. He'd call everybody out. He'd take out earmarks. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there to lead, to be a servant leader. And unfortunately, he's had a bout with prostate cancer. It's reoccurred, and he announced that he's going to have to step down at the end of this year. So we're going to lose a great man in D.C., someone that was really a pit bull for all Americans, all citizens. I mean, he protected everyone. So we're gonna pick that up in this. We're going to publish it annually.
Wow, Waste Book.
Yeah, and I hope I'm not the only one. I'd like to see all 100 senators and all 435 Congress persons in D.C. publish their own waste book.
Sure.
It would be
have everybody being a watchdog.
Well,
yes.
You'd finally get to know what your lawmakers deem as wasteful.
Yeah.
And that would be eye-opening to their principles and to their priorities.
It's really changing the culture, right, Ben and Jack? I mean, it's an ethos of being that pit bull, being that watchdog, pragmatic. No one would run their budget. I'm a businessman. I would never run my business with my partners the same way the federal government's run. You wouldn't run your family's budget the way we run our federal budget. And by getting legislators to focus on wasteful spending, they're a fiduciary for us. They're spending our money.
And around this time of year is when we all get reminded of, I got to cut a check to them. What? Eric and Savage has called in about the buildings in Washington. Eric.
Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Thanks for listening.
When I first heard you guys, I was thinking, oh, my God, you guys are so ignorant about Washington, it's not even funny. Washington is not wasteful. They are spiteful. I guarantee you, not one building in Washington has been completely paid for since the Civil War. Here's the deal. It's called infrastructure. It's just like the building they're building in St. Paul for our senators, the $90 million building. That's not a $90 million building. It's a $1 trillion building because that's how much will be spent on it in costs by the time it's torn down and rebuilt.
Sure.
Not one, and I'm serious. Not one building in Washington has been paid for completely. Washington Monument probably hasn't been paid for. You walk around any of these cities and you see marble foyers 30 feet tall. You know, we don't need that. They need to be concrete brick buildings with 2 or 3 windows, and that's it.
Thanks, Eric.
I agree with you completely. Well,
This is why I love all the brutalist architecture in Washington, because it's utilitarian, it's form following function, and that government needs as little function as possible, so they require as little form as possible.
But this Senate Legislative Office building is going to be amazing when what in actuality they need are some temporary trailers that they can work out of until they're there. We do it for schools.
Right.
You know, if schools get too big for their building, temporarily they put kids in trailers and educate them. And why can't we do that for the 3 months that the Senate's going to be inconvenienced? It's amazing. Now, I noticed you've got some of the pages in this waste book dog-eared. Have you got other examples?
Jack notices that Superman is on the cover of this waste book.
Well, yeah, this was the most recent one that came out in December, and it is Superman because it was highlighting a $10 million spend at the National Guard that teamed up with the Superman movie to do a promotion.
Why?
There's also $500 million $500 billion of loans that went through the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, to finance beachfront homes in Hawaii.
The
I'm not
Department
making
of
that
Agriculture spending money on Hawaii beaches.
Financing homes. Do we not have private banks that can finance homes?
Last time I checked.
As far as I
Just
know.
trying to think of how much barley comes from the Hawaiian beaches.
Well, what I don't understand, Mike, is, I do understand it. Government's gotten way bigger than it was ever intended. And we've got people that we've sent to Washington who've been complicit in that.
Right.
What makes you different from the other Republicans who I'm guessing would say the same thing? Because right now you're not the only person in this race. There's an endorsement and a primary ahead of you. What makes you different than the other folks?
Well, I think one thing that makes me different is that I'm not a politician.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a businessman. I'm a dad. Mary Kay and I have 6 kids. I've been a coach in our youth league, and I've been really involved in inner city high school. But one of the biggest issues I think we have in this country is we've created this professional class of politician, and I think it's killing us. It's not what the founding fathers envisioned. They envisioned a learn, earned, and serve model later on in one's career after they had real life experience. You know, I happen to be in business, but you could be a farmer, you could be an educator, you could be a warrior. But later on, go to Washington and serve, and underline the word serve. Go there to do something, not be something. And I'll go there to do something. I'll fight for Minnesotans, and I think it's a mindset. The idea, I know through business, I always tried to be a servant leader. I was there because my partners and my colleagues had chosen me to help lead the firm, and I was accountable to them. That's why I was there. I never forgot about that. I was there to support them, and I think so many people in Washington, they go there and they forget who elected them. They're not servant leaders. I don't think they even know what that means. And we have huge issues in this country. We are at a tipping point. We are on the road to fiscal insolvency with $17 trillion of debt and long-term entitlement obligations that have to be addressed. But I have no confidence that they'll be addressed in a responsible way until we change the culture of Washington. And that's why this waste book, this idea about being fiduciaries for the public's money is so important. You have to have that mindset. And so I can't speak to the other candidates. I can just speak to my own mindset and why I'm going to Washington. And I really want to go there to do something, not to be something.
I love that line. I love that line because so many people go run for office on every level to some type of personal accomplishment.
Well, it's the idea that my entire life is leading to this moment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not all about you, man.
Totally.
All right.
Thank you very much.